Welcome back, guys. I just want to give a quick shout out to everyone who's watching this, everyone who's watched my videos for the past 10 years. This is actually the 10th year I've done it, and I've been a lot better about, at least in the past, about doing them every week, because I know in the past that I would go weeks without doing one. But as you guys might remember, it was a dark era in Bills football. I was in college, so I just didn't have time sometimes, but I'm glad you stuck with me. Whoever put me on Reddit, thank you. My views have gone up, subscribers and whatnot, and I really appreciate, the Twitter conversations I have, the YouTube conversations I have with people, and I just like talking Bills football. That's why I do it. You do too. So that's why I think we have healthy conversations. But 2018, the Bills are back. What's the top story? Playoff drought's over. We've discussed that, at length. Very happy about that. Now tied for the... We don't have a playoff drought, right? It's invisible. There's none. There is no playoff drought. I was going to say tied for the, the shortest playoff drought, but I don't think that's a thing. You don't have one. You made it last year. Most recent time, you were in. So, there you go. Top story is obviously at quarterback. The Bills drafted Josh Allen. They signed A.J. McCarron, and Nathan Peterman is going to get to start in Week 1 against the Baltimore Ravens. So that shouldn't really shock anyone. I was going to say, if you're going to be shocked about maybe anything, it would be that A.J. McCarron was traded to the Raiders, but when they offered up a 5th-round pick to get that contract, I mean, it's not necessarily a huge contract, 2 years, $10 million, but he was probably going to be your third-string quarterback. I think Josh Allen showed throughout preseason that he's there. I feel like with Josh Allen, he is... Everything that he does it's right there. He's on the cusp of everything. He just has this little hill to climb and get over with footwork, with timing, with touch. He's right there with everything. And his head is in a good spot, but he's not there yet. He can't quite get over it yet. And honestly, he's only been in the league now for 4 months, so I'm patient. I'm in on the idea that a quarterback should, I don't want to say should, but is letting the quarterback sit and wait a full year so that he gets that January to May, whereas now, or in this past off season, January to May, he's working out, a combine, private workouts, etc., etc. Now he's got a team, he's got an offense, he's got a playbook, one team, one offense, one playbook, one coach, one offensive coordinator. Now he can just sort of come into his own. I feel like he can just handle coaching, not have to worry about interviews and stuff coming up and whatnot. I think that process, is beneficial to any rookie quarterback. To see the game for a year, or even 8 or 10 games, or in Patrick Mahomes' case, 15 games. Then he played one. He played the last game because the Chiefs didn't need it. I think Patrick Mahomes has a pretty good chance of being good because A, because of the prospect he was, and B, because he was able to get acclimated to the league. And I think that he'll really hit his stride this year. I think that could happen with Josh Allen next year. Back to McCarron, honestly thought coming in that he would be the starter, maybe coming into camp, I suppose. But Peterman played pretty well. That's what this boils down to. Peterman completed 80% of his passes in the preseason. He played the best. Why did he get the job? It should be no shock to anyone. You don't have to be... I've tweeted this. You don't have to be a sheep to the train of thought that it's smarter to play Peterman because the O-line doesn't appear to be that good, and Josh Allen got sacked 5 times in the game he started and didn't look great and had some overthrows, which is all true. But the fact of the matter is that Peterman just played better. It feels like Peterman has, I don't know if command of the offense is the right thing, but there's just this there's more of a smoothness to the offense when he is a quarterback, and that sounds insane to some people because of last year's debacle in L.A., which he is unfairly criticized for, in my opinion. God forbid Twitter if Peterman comes out and throws a pick on the first possession. They'll, oh my God, can you even imagine? But I think he's got a pretty good head on his shoulders. I don't think he got, or gets too up and down about reflecting in the past and looking at the LA game. I think that there's a lot for him to learn from there. He started the game against the Colts too and didn't finish it. The Bills won that game with Joe Webb, but he started that game through a touchdown to Kelvin Benjamin. I think he is the best option, honestly. If they're trying to win this year, which I think that they are, I think they did the same thing last year with Tyrod. That's why maybe they didn't draft, I don't know, I guess that wouldn't be related to Mahomes or Watson maybe, but maybe they didn't trade up. They traded down last year thinking ahead to this year, but they're like, hey, we have Tyrod Taylor this year, we can win this year with this group that we have. And I don't think that this year is really any different. I think that with Peterman, I don't buy into the schedule is tough. I don't buy too much into the offensive line is terrible. I think that's really the only positional group that you can look at and be like, well, they're probably worse off than they were last year because they lost Wood, who's a Pro Bowler, Incognito, who's a Pro Bowler, and they have some relatively unprovens at those positions. So I understand that. I don't think that's a good reason to necessarily not start Josh Allen. When he's ready, he's ready. I don't think it's like, oh well, the line's bad in front of him, we shouldn't play him. But I don't know. The Packers didn't not play Aaron Rodgers when the line was bad in front of him, and they eventually got David Bakhtiari, and they're good. That's just it'll come. It'll come. Again, Peterman, best option in my mind to play quarterback to win this year. Because I'm not, like I said, I don't buy into the schedule being tough. The first 4 games look tough. You never know what's going to happen. And it starts at Baltimore, and I guess we'll just make that segue into previewing this. Baltimore, if you're a Ravens fan, you're watching this, I'm really not going to try to insult your team, but, and it sounds hilarious because I'm a Bills fan, and, people have laughed at them a lot throughout the years, but the Ravens, I think, are just one of the more overappreciated, or just overrated, probably a pretty good word for it as well. People just always seem to think that they're better than they are. The defense gets credit for being good, which granted it was. It was sixth in points last year, points allowed, 12th in yards allowed. So they're in the upper third. But because they were good with Ray Lewis 15 years ago, and Chris McAllister and Peter Boulware and Adalius Thomas, yeah, I know all these names. Because you were good with those guys, oh, you're still good. Who, okay. C.J. Mosley's pretty good. Eric Weddle's very good. Tony Jefferson's pretty good. I love Matt Judon. I think Matt Judon might be your most improved player. He had 8 sacks last year. He could be a force this year. I like Brandon Williams at nose tackle. You got good players. I just don't necessarily think that, I think they get way too much credit for being good than they actually are. They have a new defensive coordinator, Don Martindale, who's never been really much of a coordinator. He was Josh McDaniels' defensive coordinator in Denver and got fired after 1 season. Other than that, he's pretty much been a linebackers coach his entire year. And just because Matt Judon's good and C.J. Mosley's good doesn't mean that Don Martindale's a good defensive coordinator. I don't. Coaches get promotions like that all the time across the league. And I think that when Dean Pease left for the Ravens last year, that was just a logical next step for John Harbaugh, but I don't necessarily think it's going to work. Looking at the Ravens, the Bills opened at Baltimore a couple years ago, and it was a defensive game. What was the final, 10-7 or 13-7? The lone touchdown for the Bills was a 1-yard plunge on 3rd and goal, might even have been 4th and goal, and the lone touchdown for the Ravens was a 60-yard pass to Mike Wallace, who's not there anymore. Joe Flacco gets way more credit for being good than he actually is. Joe Flacco makes consistently bad decisions all the time. All the time. The Ravens were dead last in net yards per pass attempt last year. Dead last. Because Joe Flacco started every game, threw for 3,000 yards, 18 touchdowns, and 13 picks. By those numbers, you should rather have Tyrod Taylor, whatever. And I've said my piece on Tyrod Taylor, so I'm done talking about that, to be honest with you. Like, just to think the Bills are going to be bad because they don't have him this year is hysterical. But by looking at Flacco's numbers, like, you might as well have Tyrod because he rushes, because he doesn't throw as many interceptions, things like that. Like, whatever. I'm just not a huge Flacco fan, clearly. He's got 3 new receivers who probably will be effective. Crabtree, John Brown, a.k.a. Smoke, and who's Willie Snead. Willie Snead would be the other one. I don't know if these are all going to work right away for them. Like, who were their receivers last year? I think who's the leading receiver from last year that's still on the team? Chris Moore? I mean, it's probably a running back. It's probably like Alex Collins. It's probably Buck Allen, who are good players in their own right. I don't know if Collins will, if that'll transition. He had like 4.5 yards per carry last year, almost 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns. Impressive season. He had an impressive season. I like him. I like Buck Allen. I even like Kenneth Dixon as like a pass-catching running back for them, like maybe the Danny Woodhead type of role. Just Buck Allen does the same thing. It was very similar. He had 46 catches last year. So it's just that's their offense. Like they are cheap throws to the tight end and the running back stuff, which was the Bills. Don't get me wrong. That's been the Bills. I just think the Ravens are beatable. They're a beatable team. Are the Bills going to beat them? I don't know. I'll talk in the next 3 minutes, and I'll talk myself into it. Because I think call me a Kool-Aid sipper if you want. I think the Bills are better than people give them credit for because they've improved on defense to me. They've added Star Lotulelei. They've added Tremaine Edmonds. Vontae Davis might not even start. He had a rough preseason, but like the second corner was interchangeable last year. The Bills were starting Sharice Wright, former Raven, for 5 games when E.J. Gaines wasn't playing. So I don't know if it's like necessarily interchangeable, but it's not a huge point of concern for me. I think they'll be improved, especially as the season goes on, and once they get out of these first 4 games. I know the first 4 games are a little tough. At Baltimore's tough. I think Bills at home against Baltimore, I'd pick the Bills to win hands down. But Bills at Baltimore, season opener, tough. Agreed. Chargers are tough. They typically start slow. At Green Bay and at Minnesota is brutal, but we'll worry about that when we get to it. I like the sort of rapport Peterman built with Benjamin in the first preseason game against Carolina. I think he's a better candidate to throw real passes, to throw like posts, to throw, you know what I mean, like real over the middle, like in routes and stuff. Like these are different. These are different throws that we really haven't had over the past couple of years. He does worry me throwing to the sidelines. Does a step and he doesn't throw it with a ton of force to the sideline, and that's where like the interceptions come in. You saw it last year against LA. It almost happened in the preseason, I believe, against Carolina. I do think that he can go through his reads pretty well. I think that he's got weapons. He's got LaShawn McCoy. Marcus Murphy looks pretty good. Chris Ivory's a brute back there, tough to tackle. Like I said, I like Benjamin. I like Charles Clay. I like Zay Jones to be very improved this year. He seems to have a really focused mentality, and I think that'll go a long way for him, getting over last year and the drops and whatnot and the injuries. So I like that. Like I said, I like the Bills' defense against the Ravens' offense because a couple of years ago they were in the same situation, only allowed 13 points. Ravens do have better downfield weapons like Smoke. Crabtree's a good possession receiver. This is tough. I don't think it's going to be very high scoring, I'll agree. Man, I'm going to pick the Bills to beat the Ravens just because week 1 optimism. I'm going to pick the Bills to beat the Ravens like 19-16. 19-16. Field goals, not a lot of touchdowns. Justin Tucker making everything as per usual. Guys, let me know how you're feeling. I want to know how you feel about Peterman, about Allen, about the quarterback, about the schedule, if it's super tough. I hate that point, but whatever. Hit me up on Twitter. My Twitter handle is the same as my YouTube username, which you can find below the video. I pretty much talk strictly sports, a lot of Bills football, and I try to reply to everyone. So I hope to talk to you guys on there. It's week 1. Let's get pumped. Enjoy the game on Sunday. Have a great weekend, and above all else, feels good to say it again. Go Bills.